Okay, and we're back with gigabytes for days. Yeah, I just had to delete some old episodes. Okay, where was I? Neckbeard alert. The Amalgamated House, I just mentioned that. So we restored some of our old ways, Queen, Lords, and Commons way of doing shit. Says Chief Justice Bolton was succeeded in 1838 by John Gervais Hutchinson Bourne. Good God. Did he write that every single time he had to write his name down? Anyway, he was a scholar, a fellow of Magdalen, Oxford, and a very able lawyer. He was, however, unfortunately cursed with a violent temper. There's like a funny story here, something like that. He's going to like put on his gown or something in the courtroom, and he's like known for being a violent guy, and he's shaking. He can't get his fucking arm through the thing, and he's trying to pull it on. He goes, "The devil's in this robe!" And then someone over to, like, they're cornered him out, and they're like, "The devil's not in there yet." They were referring to him. Humor in 1895 was different. So many stories about Bourne's attitude. Anyway, apparently Sir John Harvey dismissed the Chief Justice in 1844. Cool, that was long-lived. He was succeeded by Thomas Norton, a most accomplished Irish gentleman who had been sent out and as assistant to Judge Demerara. It's a mouthful. Norton was the first Roman Catholic Chief Justice. He was a universal favorite, an able, impartial judge, a most humorous and fascinating companion off the bench. He only remained in Newfoundland a few years, as do most anybody with any sort of authority, it would seem. Okay, now, moving on to a little chunk here, known as the Great Fire. We named beers after this. During the actually with the other one we need not this one, the other one. During the governorship of Sir John Harvey, St. John's was devastated by the Great Fire. What the Heira to the Mussulman, I don't know what either of those things mean, but he's making a comparison. What this is to that guy is what the 9th of June 1846 was to Newfoundlanders. So I assume whatever Hijira to the Mussulman was fucking bad. A date constantly referred to, June 9th, 1846. The previous year in 1845 had been remarkable for the disastrous fire at Quebec, and a month later, the terrible conflagration he loves saying conflagration, just say fucking fire, at St. John, New Brunswick, or blaze. St. John's, to its honor, had contributed liberally to the sufferers of both calamities, so we sort of, when we heard the boys, Quebec, New Brunswick were in trouble, we gave them a bit of love. Our fire was the most disastrous of all. It began in Hamlin, the cabinet maker's shop, about 8 a.m., and by nightfall it had destroyed the city. The suburbs, then very unimportant, were left. By sundown, nothing but a forest of chimneys remained to mark the site of our flourishing town. The citizens and the fire brigade worked manually. Sir John, Mayor Robe, Colonel Law, and the military were untiring in their exertions. His Excellency was everywhere. So that's good. They talk about how they attempted to just do some stuff. The conflagration reached everywhere. The beautiful new convent at the head of Long's Hill, far away from the flames, was destroyed by sparks that were carried in the wind. Churches, everything just got fucked. St. John's Church caught the heat to leeward. By the next day, the heat became overbearing with the burning of many substantial wooden buildings and seal vats of water sheets. So there was just burning vats of fat going off. And with that several ships on fire in the harbor, it seemed now almost miraculous that the south side even managed to escape it altogether. Out of 60 large mercantile warehouses, Newman's old, I guess the wine cellars, whatever, Newman's old premises at River alone remained. That was the only fucking thing left after the Great Fire. So that's really great. Not so much a time. The Great Fire, read in full. DW also mentions, it's kind of cool, because again, you're going to remember he was alive, and he says he remembers having witnessed the fire, being there, and he just says they were lucky that the weather was so warm at the time, because he said he couldn't imagine having to suffer out the next couple of nights in the cold or whatever while it all happened. So that's good. Pretty crazy now that we're getting to a point where he was alive for some of this stuff. It almost seems surreal after fucking this many pages. Okay, so anyway, the military wasted no time in setting up the first tents for the first little bit, and then, shortly before that, like, wooden shacks were erected, and, they turned it into little camps and stuff like that till we could start to figure out how to fucking get to rebuilding. There was a nice note here on page 460 that said, Um, the very next morning, some of the citizens were at work excavating amongst the ruins of their dwellings and preparing to erect temporary shields. Thousands were ruined, but everywhere there was a hopeful, determined spirit that St. John's would rise again. I mean, not obviously to the same degree as the Great Fire, but it kind of makes me think about the general attitude during Snowmageddon, or even right now during this quarantine crisis. We're just kind of make the best of it. I know, like, Snowmageddon was only a week, and we're over a month into this fucking COVID-19 thing, and it was cute for the first couple of weeks, and now it's getting a bit annoying, but keep that spirit up, you know, it runs in our blood, clearly. Says here, the year of the fire was a most unfortunate one for the colony. Yeah, no shit. On the 19th, so after the 9th of June, the 9th of June, shortly after that, on the 19th of September, a terrific gale destroyed an immense amount of property, both by land and sea. The unfinished native hall was blown down. St. Thomas Church was moved bodily. I don't know if that means the whole thing scooted over a couple feet. A large number of houses in St. John's, partially built, because we were only getting back to it, were injured. There was also an extraordinary high tide at the time, so the water came up to the floors of several houses on the south side of Water Street. Jesus, we just keep, literally, when it rains, it fucking pours. I mean, it just one thing after another. Just, man, talk about resilient. You gotta hand it to the boys back then. Like, they didn't even have, Netflix and stuff. Anyway, John Harvey leaves us in 1846 to govern Nova Scotia. Sin too. He was over in Nova Scotia. His wife died in 1851, and they say that his heart just couldn't take it. He wasn't in the game anymore, and John Harvey leaves us. Not sure how old he was, but the very next year I like to think he died of heartbreak in 1852. He was remembered as a skilled diplomat and the perfect guy to get Newfoundland out of all the squabbling and bullshit and stuff that had gone on the years prior. So he was a good guy to have when we had him. Mr. John Harvey, everybody. Good work, John. Cheers to you. Anyway, he was succeeded by a fella, Sir Gaspard Le Marchand. I can only imagine that's where the street name comes from. He was a distinguished soldier. He was practical and heavily promoted agriculture. And I have a quote by him or something here. He introduced Ayrshire and Jersey cows. Yeah, I forgot to think about cows. So he was big on agriculture. He introduced 2 breeds of cows, and in a few years completely transformed the breed of cattle throughout the colony. He's our cow guy. He liked to see after everything personally, and this is kind of funny. Yeah, he was a hands-on kind of guy, and where he was a soldier, I don't think he was too afraid of anything. So he says he liked to see after everything personally. When he heard that a mob was burning him in effigy, burning a picture or a statue or something, they were burning his image. He actually went down to see if his image was properly set up. That is a fucking badass move. He wanted to see that it was properly set up, and that if his bold aquiline nose, or aquiline, anyway, he wanted to make sure that his nose had been successfully copied. Like, if you're gonna burn my picture up on your fucking hill, you better hang it right and make me look good. That's, fuck, man, you gotta respect a guy like that. Anyway, in December 1848, the first session of the new legislature was opened under the old Constitution of 1832. It's always nice to take steps backwards. With separate council and assembly, because that whole 2 separate thing always worked so great. In 1848 was a year of revolution for Europe. With the exception of Her Gracious Majesty, the Queen's, every other throne in Europe was tottering or tumbling or up for grabs or in turmoil. So England was like the only stable monarchy at the time. Responsible government was the war cry of our modest rebellion. That's all we wanted, responsible government. A lot to fucking ask for, isn't it? And the only outbreak of violence was the burning of the governor's image. The effigy or whatever. The revolutionary fever has so far always attacked us in a mild form. So we've always had that bit of fucking rant and rave and spirit in us. On the last page here, this sort of agitation, that sort of revolutionary spirit went on, notwithstanding Earl Grey and the Sturdy and John Parkington. What the fuck is all this? Responsible government had been conceded to every one of the North American colonies. The home government ought to have had wisdom enough to see that it was inevitable and had concealed it gracefully instead of having it wrung from them. Each successive House of Assembly had pronounced in favour of executive responsibility, even the amalgamated House, in which 2/5 of the members were nominees of the Crown. They had voted in favour of the same principle. So I think we wanted responsible government. I'm not sure why we didn't have it. Mr. John Kent in 1849 became the collector of customs in place of Mr. Spearman. We've never heard any of those guys. Dr. Fleming won out with incessant toil of labour in the diocese. In 1848 obtained as coadjutor. Dr. Mullock, who arrived from St. John's. I don't know what these people are running for positions for. From this time forth, the leaders of the Liberal and Catholic parties were Mr. P.F. Little and the new bishop. Anyway, Dr. Mullock was a scholar full of wit and eloquence. He did much to forward the interests of the colony and was one of the first to promote telegraphic communication, local steam, and practical agriculture. So I'm not sure what Mullock was doing here to begin with, but it sounds like he's a good guy to have on our team. With that, I am done my obligation for today, and this has been episode 26 of Liam Small, Abridges, A History of Newfoundland by D.W. Prowse, 15 to 20 pages at a time, every day, or until the bars reopen, or if I am sick, or if I stay up for 2 days. For me, it still counts as 1 day. I'm not doing a whole lot of that anymore, because you can't live like that. You gotta find new ways to get on and stuff. Like I said, for the first couple of weeks, this was, kind of a fun thing. Oh, I'm gonna do a history thing every day. But then you realize, like, fucking 26 episodes in, or 3 or 4 weeks in, like, this might be life for a little bit. So, just trying to adjust to a new normal still. I think we'll all get there. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm just killing SD card space right now. So, cheers to you and your crew. It's supposed to be a bright, sunny, nice, wonderful day tomorrow or today, depending when you see it. I'm talking Sunday. Go out, get a hike, get some fucking vitamin D. I don't know, stretch your legs. Who the fuck am I to be giving you advice anyway? You already know this shit. You're doing better than I am at it. Cheers, guys. Lovely to see you. Nice to talk to you. See you tomorrow. Mwah.